When done properly, the internet, screens, and particularly social media can provide 5 essential elements of adolescent well-being: a sense of control over one's environment, individuation, self-expression, a connection to others, and acceptance. And then there is the abyss. Welcome to App-Propriate, a podcast designed to give you a little taste into the positives and negatives of the most popular social media apps, so that you and your most importants can make more informed, healthy, and safer choices when it comes to interacting through your screens. I'm your host, Joe Langford. Note that I said safer, not safe. Interacting through screens with other humans contains a degree of natural risk, just like real life. And I believe that education leads to empowerment, and I hope this information helps add a degree of safety, social responsibility, and good digital citizenship to your social networking and the conversations you have about it with your family. By popular request, this week's episode is about Instagram. Instagram falls into the microblogging or the audience-themed app category. It's an online photo and video sharing social networking service that lets users take pictures and videos, alter them digitally in cool and unique ways, and then share them in a sort of an online streaming scrapbook. If Facebook has the gold medal in terms of sheer numbers of users, with over 600 million users, Instagram has the silver. Instagram is owned by Facebook, but it has a visual forward interface and a format and a culture that's more appealing to teens. In fact, when your kid takes a picture, selfie or not, there's a pretty good chance it's going to end up on social media. And if your kid is in middle or high school, most of the time, that's going to be Instagram. There's a lot for people to be excited about with regard to Instagram. But kids are particularly enamored with it, primarily because that's where statistically around 75% of their peers are hanging out. They can also keep tabs on their favorite trends, follow feeds that align with their interests and values, and of course maintain their own profile, sometimes profiles, showing the world who they are and want to become, learning about themselves and their place in the world as they go. Okay, some of that isn't exactly conscious. Most of the time, it's just fun memories and good lighting. Once users create an account, they kickstart their feed by following friends and celebrities and sources, some of which, like Facebook, Instagram helpfully suggests. Users are able to search for and link to content on other social media sites as well. To share posts, users select a photo or a video from their library or camera. Depending on the media type, users can apply all sorts of filters and image editing tools, as well as captions or hashtags or locations. Though if you've heard me talk about this stuff before, I do not recommend location sharing for minors. In 2016, Instagram introduced Stories, a diary-like video scrapbook borrowed from Snapchat, which disappears after a day. Also kind of like Snapchat. Stories works like this. As you go about your day, you might snap a series of quick videos of yourself eating breakfast, walking to school, working out, hanging out with friends, doing homework, reacting to your favorite TV show's cliffhanger, brushing your teeth. Kind of boring when viewed separately, but strung together, and because it's video rather than text, people can share info about themselves in a way that's more random and spontaneous, and therefore a little more honest feeling than the typical posed and curated Instagram pictures. Similar to Facebook, which has now expanded to be able to show sadness and anger, not just like. Stories is inspiring people to share their messy rooms and their uncombed hair. Like sharing those 5 pictures of your kid in the red hat on the swing that you deleted, not just the 2 good ones that you kept. Instagram TV, or IGTV, is a feature that allows for longer-form videos programmed by Instagram itself. Though users and their friends and followers can also create their own IGTV channels and broadcast themselves, resembling in many ways YouTube. As with all social media, Instagram has potential for problems. The most popular ones that I encounter in my work with kids and families revolve around 1. Content issues, which can and will vary depending on who your kid is interacting with. 2. The viciousness of the comments that can be made. And 3. The self-esteem issues. Around content, it's my experience that kids hardly ever only limit themselves to following their close personal friends, which would limit the content they're exposed to only those close personal friends. That age between 12 and 16, the age that Instagram is most appealing to, are the formative years, in which kids begin getting their first tastes of freedom, begin interacting with the bigger culture and community on their own, and learn how to merge their developing value system and self concept with the rest of the world. Online, including Instagram, just like in real life, they will be exposed to a variety of content and concepts, including negativity, substances, swearing, celebrities, violence, sexy stuff. All parts, sometimes unfortunately, of life. And though a parent's temptation might be to shield them from these things, I recommend monitoring and making conversation around them as your child grows, because they need to develop a relationship with these things just like we did. In dealing with the comments issue, we cannot control other people's behavior online, but we do have some ways to minimize its impact on our feeds. Instagram helps this by way of comment control, limiting comments only to followers, blocking comments from specific people, the ability to create filters for problematic words and phrases from one's comment threads, as well as being able to hide or delete unwanted comments. Additionally, Instagram allows users to control whether or not other people can reshare your posts, and can prevent other users from automatically adding pictures to your profile without consent, minimizing the exposure to and fuel for online haters. But I'll speak more to the privacy features in just a bit. Regarding the third concern, the self-esteem stuff, there are two specific pink flags with regard to Instagram and self-esteem. Instagram has a reputation even larger than Facebook's for lending itself toward like culture, and some kids can get their self-esteem wrapped up in that external validation. The takeaway for Instagram is that we need to ensure that our kids have other real-world sources of self-esteem in place so that they don't autopilot into getting all of those self-esteem needs met through their screens. Left unchecked and unexamined, Instagram can increase a kid's anxiety, depression, loneliness, and their odds of being targeted for harassment and exploitation. There's a lot of perfectionism woven into Instagram's DNA, and with that comes pressure for kids to maintain a streamlined profile. Some kids stress about this, constantly scan their content and feeds, and alter or even delete posts if they don't hit those sometimes unrealistic, arbitrary, and fleeting marks. And this can absolutely affect some people's body images and their sense of self. Some kids even take ridiculous risks to get that perfect shot or more likes. Sometimes this may be hanging off a cliff face or climbing into the alligator pit at the zoo, but more typically it involves removing clothing. Instagram Direct is the feature I referenced earlier, which allows users to send and receive expiring pictures and videos, Snapchat style. Though photos on Instagram have been typically public by default, the privacy settings can be changed, and private messaging is now an option. And some kids are going to be tempted to send more inappropriate or scandalous stuff than they did when public was always the default. Because now you can just send that one special picture of that one special thing to that one special person. Plus, showing skin, as it has since the beginning of time, gets you attention. Because Instagram is so image-based, kids can definitely get wrapped up in the drive for branding, perfection, followers, and attention. To keep up, teens may share too much personal information, including their skin, to get that attention, up their likes and followers, or keep up with their role models. It's important to remember that while previous generations' go-to goals were becoming movie stars, professional athletes, rock stars, or models, today's version of that is becoming a famous YouTuber or social media influencer. And while many of us put those goals in the "what do you want to be when you grow up" category, kids today don't put up with that. There are dozens of famous, wealthy internet celebrities that are their own age, who said or did the right thing at the right time and went viral. And to our kids, that equals, that can happen to me too. So in service of both self-esteem issues and the temptation for kids to send explicit pics to each other, it's super important to discuss your expectations around the content of their photos. And speaking of outside influence, Instagram also has a fair amount of commercial aspects. Ads, endorsement, and product links can be constant and pervasive. The effects of those influencers are real, so knowing who your kid follows and why might give you insight into who they admire and what products that person might be pushing, sometimes encouraging kids to buy things directly through the app. On Instagram, you can also send and receive direct messages, including to and from people that you don't necessarily follow or who don't follow you. If someone's being gross or inappropriate, you can tap the three dots next to their account, which will give you options to block, report, or mute that person. Those features are your friends. Truly determined trolls can create a new account and start again. Some bullies even create hate pages created solely to target specific people, accounts, or causes. In my experience, Instagram can be hit and miss in terms of their response to bullying, so it's important to discuss with your kids the use of the block and report functions, asking for help when they need it, and considering disabling comments or making their account private so that only followers they approve can see what they share. If an account is set to private, only approved followers will see photos or videos or hashtags or location pages. And while we're on this subject, I want to take a small sidebar and talk safety features. Instagram accounts are public by default, but can be changed to private in the settings of your child's profile page. Select Privacy and Security, then Account Privacy, and toggle on Private Account. With a private account, only people you approve can see what you post. There are a lot of options in the privacy and security section, so it is worth poking around, especially as you, ideally, help your kid, or they help you, set up their account. I typically advise against allowing elementary schoolers on Instagram. The rules say they have to be 13 anyway, but once they hit middle school, they're going to make a digital beeline for it. Every kid is unique like a snowflake, and you know your kid better than anyone. So if your kid tends to obsess about things, has trouble over consuming or unplugging from media, or tends to take unhealthy risks, you might hold off on Instagram for a while. Otherwise, as long as some best practices are followed, Instagram can be an age-appropriate way for kids to spend time where their friends and most of their age cohort are. Keep up on their favorite celebrities and causes, follow accounts that align with their interests, and explore their self-image and concept while presenting it to the world. Those best practices for this include being very clear with your expectations around behavior and specifically the images they share. Having a signed contract, like the template for creating expectations around social networking that I offer at my website, beheroes.net, and monitoring their behavior on the app. So some parents do spot checks, which I generally support, perhaps setting aside regular times to sit down and vet through your kid's feed with them. Other parents insist on having access to their kids' login info so they can review their account from their own device. But a more organic and honestly more effective way is to get on Instagram yourself, follow your kid, and have them follow you. This is ideal as it provides a really sweet window into your child's world and the ways that they see it. And it sets the stage for connection with them as they grow and eventually leave the nest. In 20 years, our kids are going to be much more inclined and more likely to message us through an app rather than call us on the phone and talk to us with their actual mouths. So start building those bridges now. Communication and connection with your kids' screens will definitely pay off later. If you feel intimidated or wary of this, put your kid in the driver's seat and let them teach you how to drive the app. You can be in charge of helping them with the behavior and the interpersonal aspects, but let them be the expert on the tech and the interface itself. Kids love this. They'll explain hashtags and memes, discuss their friends and connections, and show you how to use the app yourself. For younger and first-time users, insisting on them having only one profile is another good practice, as is setting profiles to private and limiting their friend circle to people they've actually met in real life. Many Instagram users have begun to create a Finsta, or a fake Instagram account, for posting to a typically smaller selector group of people. Rinstas, or real Instagram accounts, are also a thing that typically is a kid's more genuine feed and usually reserved for only very close friends and hopefully parents to see. These more protected and private accounts tend to have specified content, like the one that's just about pug puppies that my son curated for a bit, or an alternative space for posting either silly and stupid things that you only want to share with a handful of selected others, or the more serious and real aspects of your life that you don't want all of your followers to have access to. And I get panicked emails all the time of parents who get all squinchy, assuming that a kid having a Rinsta or a Finsta means that a kid is trying to hide questionable or inappropriate behavior from their parents. And that can be the case. But here's a couple of other points to consider. 1, if your kid is posting and promoting unhealthy, uncharacteristic, or risky behavior on social media, that's a kid problem, not a social media problem. That kind of thing can be handled by communication, closer monitoring, and clear expectations and consequences set up ahead of time. 2, Finstas can be a good thing. Finsta accounts are typically set to private and associated with a clever pseudonym and bio line so that audiences are more exclusive, usually a niche group of friends. And whether it's processing through a sad event with a close group of intimate friends, an invite-only group sharing similar interests or support, or having a smaller space where they can let loose, be mischievous, or even say some bad words with their buddies, or maybe just a feed about football or mathletics that they share with their team. For a kid to keep more vulnerable parts of their lives to a smaller, vetted group is a good instinct that should be honed, not feared. And 3, we don't necessarily want unfettered access to all of our child's interactions with their peers, nor should we. It's a teen's job to explore and learn about themselves and to try on different aspects of their personalities. In this day and age, people do that through screens, and having your parent have 100% transparent access to those developmental processes is going to interfere with that development. The equivalent would be your mother staring with her nose pressed up against every store window you hung out in with your friends at the mall, or having your dad listening to every phone call you ever made, or your teacher reading aloud every note you ever passed in class. Creating a side account that's a private place for you to hang out with your friends is age-appropriate and developmentally normative for most kids with a teen in their name. Can there be risk involved with a Finsta account? Yeah. Is it better if your kid contracts with you and agrees to a certain set of expectations before creating the Finsta? Certainly. But as long as they follow responsible social media practices, limiting their audiences, remembering that the internet is forever, and utilizing good judgment in privacy settings, Finstas and Rinstas do not have to be considered bad things. To see if your kid has more than one Insta, simply tap the person icon and the arrow next to their username in the Instagram app. If they have another account, it'll show up there. You can also simply ask them about their philosophy and practice around having more than one Instagram account. Instagram is crazy popular and can feel pervasive, so discussing limits like this is part of good digital citizenship in general, and can become important specifically with your kid regarding Instagram. Within the app, there's a feature called Your Activity, which is designed to help people track and be aware of the time they're spending on the app. Your Activity shows how much time you've spent using the app in the past few days, lets you set a time limit, and gives a reminder to unplug. There are other ways to do this, of course, but using options like this can take some of the pressure off of us parents and help kids build responsibility muscles. So with some guidance around settings, limits of use, and ongoing conversations about content, comments, and citizenship, Instagram can be a place for kids to connect and be creative. If you decide to let your tween or teen use Instagram, take steps to highlight the positives and minimize the negatives. Be on Instagram with them. Talk about big picture cultural concerns and specific app settings. Note your concerns, share your values, and listen to theirs. Lay out your expectations and potential consequences, set boundaries, and then follow up with them with check-in conversations. Instagram, like middle school and life in general, will test and illuminate your child's character, integrity, moral fiber, and decision-making. And if we've done due diligence with parenting, set limits, and encouraged good digital citizenship, then Instagram could be a welcome arena for kids to take off some training wheels and explore and learn about themselves and the world, rather than a minefield to be feared. Thank you for listening. I'm Joe Langford. I'm a therapist, a sex and tech educator, and a dad, and I specialize in helping families navigate that intersection of adolescence, sexuality, technology, and behavior. More information about me and my work to promote healthy, positive, and safer sexual and social behavior, both online and off, can be found at my website, beheroes.net.
The advice presented in this podcast is a form of education and is intended to provide general information about common though broad topics that impact underage people. Specific circumstances and facts may make said advice unsuitable and/or other actions necessary for individuals. This podcast is meant to be an adjunct, not a replacement for IRL experience, professional advice, and good old-fashioned common sense. In addition, much of the information included here can and most likely will change with time, culture, and the rapid development of technology. BeHeroes.net does not seek nor accept any monetary gain or financial support from any social media platform mentioned. BeHeroes.net is committed to providing quality consulting, coaching, product, speaker, and contracted therapeutic services, advocacy, and resources to clients, visitors, customers, colleagues, and fans. Appropriate is produced by BeHeroes.net.